My review of The Empire Strikes Back is long overdue, so here we go. Welcome back to my favorite movies, and when talking about these films, it would be a sin not to talk about The Empire Strikes Back. A word of warning to you guys, I will talk about this movie in great detail, so this video will feature spoilers. However, if you haven't seen The Empire Strikes Back, what the fuck is wrong with you? The Empire Strikes Back takes place sometime after Star Wars, and our rebels are now hiding on this desolated ice planet called Hoth. They have their rebel base there, and Luke, Han, and Leia play pivotal roles in the Rebel Alliance. However, not only does the Empire want to see the rebels finally destroyed after they took down the Death Star, but Darth Vader wants Luke personally. This movie features some of the greatest pieces of film material I have ever seen in my entire life. It starts out on Hoth. From the get-go, we see that Luke is now on his way to become a real Jedi. Yeah, he gets captured by this Wampa creature. He's hanging upside down in captivity, and he just reaches his hand out, and for the very first time, he uses the Force to get his lightsaber back. Meanwhile, the Empire sends out drones to find the new rebel base, and they do. And oh, do they strike back. They go down there with snowtroopers, and they have their huge AT-AT walkers, and we now have our Battle of Hoth. After the battle is lost, our friends scatter, and the great thing is everyone goes on their own mission in this one. Yeah, Han, Chewie, C-3PO, and Leia, they escape from the Empire, while Luke, who received a vision from Obi-Wan, who came back in the form of a ghost, that he must go to the Dagobah system, find Yoda, the one who trained him, in order to become a Jedi. So Luke and R2-D2 try to find that mysterious Dagobah system. Meanwhile, we actually learn more about Darth Vader's character. This movie is Darth Vader's film. I mean, yeah, he was the bad guy in the last one as well, but I felt like he was sort of the right hand of Tarkin. And besides that scene with him and Obi-Wan at the end, he wasn't the main villain to me. In this one, oh yeah. This movie, to me, is the reason why Darth Vader is one of the greatest villains of all time. He's executing all of his lieutenants that fail him, and you also see for the very first time that that uniform that he wears is something he needs to wear. He doesn't wear it because he's like a high member of the Empire. No, you see his helmet coming down and you see the back of his head and it's all trashed and shit and disgusting. Vader is actually injured or damaged. That is fantastic. And he's obsessed with finding Luke in that movie. We'll get to that later. During their escape, Han and Leia's relationship is also developed further. They bicker back and forth, and I actually love their romance because they are so stubborn. And I love Leia. Leia is not only a badass chick, but she's kinda cute, and her relationship with Han works perfectly. Han Solo is still the coolest space pirate ever. And he comes up with the idea to visit his old friend Lando, who's also a smuggler. Yeah, that's right, we got another smuggler in this movie. And while they pal around and everything seems cool, the Empire's already there and made a deal with Lando, and he ends up betraying our heroes. But it turns out Vader only wants to capture Han to torture him, so Luke will get visions of that and will finally come to Vader. Boba Fett is actually the bounty hunter that located the Millennium Falcon because he works for Jabba the Hutt, and since Han still owes Jabba money, that's not good news for our favorite space pirate. And Boba Fett is awesome. Yeah, he doesn't say a lot, he doesn't do a lot except for taking Han, but he actually has the balls to talk shit to Vader. Vader's endgame is to freeze Luke in carbonite in order to bring him personally to the Emperor. But he doesn't know if that process will kill him, so he wants to try it out on Solo first. And Boba's like, he's no good dead to me. What about my bounty? Yeah, that's kind of badass, talking shit like this to Vader and not being killed for it. But yeah, this scene is one of my all-time favorite scenes in movie history. Han, Leia, and Chewie are surrounded by stormtroopers. They take Han away in order to freeze him. And Leia and Han finally realize that this might just be the very last time they see each other. So Leia breaks, kisses him, and says, I love you. And what does Han say? I know. This is why Han's a badass. Luke is still on the Dagobah system with R2-D2, where he finds Yoda. And Yoda pretends to be this little weird creature that annoys the living shit out of Luke, but it's all a test, and Luke fails every single one of Yoda's tests. Because he's like, I want to meet that guy, I want to meet the Jedi Master, I need to become a Jedi. And this is where Yoda starts talking to the ghost of Obi-Wan. And he's like, yeah, that guy has no patience. This is when Luke realizes, oh my god, this little thing is in fact Yoda. He's like, I promise, I can learn, I'm not afraid. And Yoda is like,
you will be. You will be. Not ready, are you?
He teaches him about everything, and the way they make use of puppetry in this movie is insane. It's out of this world. I love all the sequences involving Yoda. Because yeah, he's a puppet, but he looks so much more real than all that CGI shit we've had in the prequels. There's this great scene where Yoda tries to make Luke use the Force in order to get his X-Wing fighter out of the swamp. And Luke, of course, fails. And he's like, you asked the impossible, Yoda. And Yoda, that little guy, uses the Force. And the music cues up so beautifully. And he actually manages to get the X-Fighter out. And Luke's like, I don't believe it. To which Yoda responds,
that's why you fail.
I love that line. So yeah, Luke embraces his training. But all of a sudden, he gets these visions of Han being tortured and his friends dying. Which is what Vader intended to happen. So he wants to leave his training behind and confront Vader. Yoda warns him and he's like, do not do that, do not do that. And he's like, I'm sorry, I cannot let my friends die. Obi-Wan also pops up again in the form of a ghost and tells him, please, please listen to Yoda, listen to us. We cannot lose you to the Empire like we lost your father. Luke, however, stubborn as he is, embarks on the quest to save his friends. And this leads to one of the most monumental confrontations in movie history. Luke finally meets Vader. And you see that Vader is really playing with him. He's blocking every move. He's not even trying. But at some point you see Vader has had about enough. He cuts off Luke's hand. And while still talking about his destiny, he's all like, Obi-Wan never told you what happened to your father. And Luke's like, he told me enough. He told me you killed him. And this is when one of the greatest twists in movie history is revealed. Vader looks at him and he's all like, no. I am your father. And the Imperial March cues up again and you're like, holy shit, holy shit. And Luke's reaction is priceless. This is my favorite use of the word no in movie history.
No!
At this point, Luke has had about enough and he actually tries to commit suicide by letting go of that pipe or whatever it is. But yeah, Leia ends up finding and saving him. And this is actually the end of the movie. Lando and Chewie fly off to locate Han. Lando is wearing Han's clothes. Why exactly does he do that? Luke receives a new robotic hand and he, Leia and the two robots are standing on a rebel transport ship watching Chewie and Lando fly off. And this is the end of the movie. This is one of the greatest cliffhangers of all time. Han was frozen and Boba Fett got away with him. Chewie and Lando fly off to somehow locate him. The Rebel Alliance lost their base on Hoth and Luke lost his hand and almost his sanity because Vader is his father. And no one ends on a high note. In conclusion, what can I say? This movie steps it up in every way possible. This movie is what a sequel should be. It's better in every way. All the characters are deeper. Han Solo is cooler than he has ever been. Leia is more badass. The addition of new characters like Yoda, Lando, and Boba Fett works perfectly. Vader is so much more evil and a personal threat to our heroes. Luke finally has to step up and embrace his destiny in this movie. And we have one of the most monumental confrontations and twists in movie history. The soundtrack, again written by John Williams, is brilliant. And by the way, this is the first movie to ever feature the Imperial March. This movie gave Vader his own theme song, which solidifies his role as one of the greatest villains of all time. There's nothing more to add other than an official rating, and The Empire Strikes Back as one of my all-time favorite movies ever made, of course, gets the gold medal. I know a lot of people that are always like, I don't like Star Wars. I'm like, have you seen it? And they're like, no, but it's stupid. To all of you guys out there that think that Star Wars is stupid, check out The Empire Strikes Back. It is one of the most well-written, well-directed, well-acted, and well-executed movies ever made. It is the reason why I love Star Wars, and it is one of the reasons why I love movies in general. There is, of course, another and final chapter of this great trilogy, but that's another video for another time. Thank you guys, as always, for watching, and if you like what you see here and you want to see more, then just subscribe.